Om 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 Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhetamastu Mavid Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Pada Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. So Bhagavad Gita we have seen, Bhagavad Gita is a Smriti Grantha. It cannot talk anything other than what Vedanta talks. ये बात समझ लीजिए. It is a Smriti. Smriti is like the calf of a cow, whereas Vedanta is like a cow. Survey, all the Vedantas, all the Upanishads are like the cows, and the cow, and Bhagavad Gita is like the calf. And wherever the cow, mother cow is there, the calf is there, it follows its mother. Bhagavad Gita follows Vedanta. This you have to be clear. Therefore, don't look upon Bhagavad Gita just because it is written by Vedavyasa. Who writes it, that is immaterial. Who speaks it, that is immaterial. As long as it pertains to the truth, it is a pramana. It has to be exactly like the Vedanta. It should not be speculative. It should be, that's why it is said, Vedantonam Upanishad Pramanam. Vedanta, otherwise called Upanishad, it is Pramanam. Upanishad, otherwise called Vedanta, is Pramanam. It doesn't matter. Vedanta is synonymous with Upanishads. Upanishad means Brahma Vidya. Vedanta means the final topic for human thinking, where the entire individuality resolves in which Vidya. That Vidya is called Vedanta. Vedanta means not, it is not the end of Veda. It is not that. Vedanta means the final topic for understanding. After understanding which topic, there is no other topic left. After understanding yourself, there is nothing more to be understood. In that sense, Bhagavad Gita is a Smriti Grantha. It follows Vedanta. We were seeing the entire Bhagavad Gita talks about Sat and Asat. Na sato vidyate bhava, na bhavo vidyate sataha. The Asat has no existence, Sat has no non-existence. It should be understood as Asat is not a parallel thing. Asat means erroneous perception about Sat. A very distorted view about Sat is called Asat. Anything, the round earth is the Sat. The flat earth, taking it to be flat, is Asat place. The sand is a Sat. Seeing it as a water is Asat. Erroneous perception is Asat. Bhranti about a fact is Asat. Bhranti means an illusion about a fact. There is nothing wrong in saying illusion, as long as you use the word illusion in the sense of erroneous perception. It is erroneous knowledge about a fact. Illusion does not mean seeing what is not there, but seeing what is there wrongly is what is called illusion. Please. Seeing what is there incorrectly. What is there you see incorrectly, that is called incorrect perception about what is called an illusion. Call it Bhranti, call it an illusion, call it Viparita Jnanam, call it an error, it doesn't matter at all. It's not these words. What you mean by the words is what matters, G. What you mean by the words. Because the error is not a parallel to the fact. Error, there is no erroneous thing. There is only erroneous perception. Very big point, Ji. Generally we think Bhranti Vishaya. There is no Bhranti ka Vishaya nahi hai. Bhranti is a Bhranti Buddhi. It is an erroneous perception. Snake is not a parallel thing. It is not a thing there. It is erroneous perception about the rope. Similarly, that I am an individual, that I am a form, is an erroneous perception about oneself, the truth. The unlimited is viewed as limited form. And therefore, it is the reality that is viewed as an individual, Mr. Sones. Every living being is asat, meaning it is a distorted perception about the unlimited. Every jiva thinks that I am limited, I am incomplete, I am non-eternal. This is all a distorted perception about the truth, which is eternal, which is complete, which is one without a second. Whereas the distorted perception tells you that there are many jivas like me. Dvaitam becomes Dvaitam means duality becomes, multiplicity becomes a part of erroneous perception, please. Duality is erroneous perception. And therefore, please understand this. Sat and Asat, they divide, see the distinction between Sat and Asat. If you understand these two words, it means a lot. Bhagavan is Sat. The entire creation is Asat. Creation is erroneous perception about the source. And we say the Shruti sometimes says the source has created itself. It looks to be the creation. It means it is seen as the universe. It's like saying the rope becomes the snake. The rope doesn't become the snake through change. All becomings are through change, but rope is seen as snake. Similarly, the source is seen as the universe. Therefore, the universe is called Asat. Asat does not mean it is non-existent. We mean it is erroneous perception about what is. It is a notion about what is. It is a wrong notion about what is. That I am an individual is a wrong notion about what one actually is, the unlimited being. And therefore, it is important to understand these two words, Sat and Asat. Asat does not mean a non-existent thing. Asat means erroneous perception about Sat. Erroneous perception. And therefore the entire universe is Asat when we say. We are not denying its perception. We are only saying, we are actually explaining the universe. Sir, it is only in the form of perception, and it is erroneous perception about the truth. It is a viparita jnanam about the truth. This is asat. Asat does not mean a denial of the perception. We are seeing the universe, and that universe is asat, means it is erroneous perception about the sat. And the one who sees, enayo, and it is also said, ubhayorapi drishtontaha tvanayoho tattvadarshibhihi. The difference between Sat and Asat has been seen only by the wise. Tattvadarshibhihi means, Tat means really Sat. Tattva means Sattvam, the actuality between Sat, the actuality about Sat and the actuality about the Asat. The one who understands the distinction between Sat and Asat is called Tattvadarshi. Enayoho ubhayoho उभयोरपि दृष्टोन्तः अनयोः तत्त्वदर्शिभिः अनयोः उभयोः अपि अन्तः means तत्त्वं दृष्टं तत्त्वदर्शिभिः. Thus, and therefore, if the wise see the difference between Sat and Asat, every student also has to make an effort to see the distinction between Sat and Asat. This is this verse we have seen. The next verse is Avinashitu tad vidhi yena sarva midam tatam vinasham avyyasyasya nakaschit kartum arhati. Very beautiful verse, Ji. Avinashitu tad vidhi. Tat means that Sat. Vidhi. Now, Bhagavan having said, the wise see the distinction between Sat and Asat, they correctly understand Sat and Asat. Unlike many people misunderstand, the Sat as something what is there and Asat as what is not there. That is not, it's not like that. A very distorted perception about the Sat is called Asat. Looks to be a Sat. Until it is understood as Asat, it continues to look as a real. Any erroneous perception you see. Dream is an erroneous perception within yourself, but looks outside yourself as a reality. It looks outside yourself. You look inside the mirror, Ji. That is also an error, but you are outside the mirror. And you look as though it is parallel to you. Your reflection is parallel to you. But your reflection is not parallel to you. Your reflection is non-separate from you. Yes. Very difficult to understand this. You have to be a very deep thinking person to understand whatever I am saying, please. Avinashitu tad vidhi. Tat means, vidhi means understand. It is something to be understood. Tad vidhi. Tat means Sat. This Sat, understand Avinashi. The source of everything is, the fact behind everything is eternal. The fact behind every perception is eternal. The fact behind every thought is eternal. The fact behind every name and form is eternal. Avinashitu tad vidhi, indestructible. And its indestructibility is evident, please. Because if that Sat is your being, your thinking is Asat, your perception is Asat, your view is Asat, your identification with the form is Asat, your thought that I am the form is Asat, but your conscious identity is Sat. And conscious identity has no negation, and therefore it is Avinashi. Thus, your conscious identity is evident, and the thought that I am the form is it looks to be evident, but it's not. Your being it is illogical thinking. That you are the form is an illogical thinking. Why? Because consciousness cannot be, the seer cannot be the seen. Ji. The seen is different, the seer is different. Therefore, that I am the form is an illogical thinking. It is, you cannot say the light is darkness. No. The seer is like the light and the seen is like the darkness. The seen is not aware of itself. The form is not aware of itself. And the one who is aware of the form is not the form. Yes, this you have to look at yourself. And therefore, the conscious identity has no negatability. It is Avinashi. Whereas the form is negatable. The form goes, but all this needs to be understood, please. Do reflection. This is understanding the difference between your conscious identity and the form of the body and the form of the universe. You are unlike everything in this creation. The seer of the creation is unlike the creation, please. And therefore, the one who sees, the one who is aware of the creation, the one who is aware of the universe, is unlike the universe. And therefore, the one who is unlike the universe is the very truth of the universe. A part of the universe cannot be the source of the universe. The source of the universe has to be unlike the universe. Like the silence is unlike the sound, and it is the vastu, it is the fact behind the sound, because the sound exists only in the realm of silence. Therefore, what I'm saying is the indestructibility of the Sat is evident, because your conscious identity has no negation. It is aware of the waking, it is aware of the dream, it is aware of the absence of both, and it is experienced as peace. It is also recalled as I was peaceful. Sukham aham aswapsam. And therefore, it is never, and I have told you one thing, you have to understand this point. You can only be, there can be there is always an experience of negation. There is no negation of experience. Anything when it is negated, your experience proves it. It is the experience that proves or disproves anything. Do you see the mountain? Yes. How do you know that there is a mountain? I experience it. How do you know that the sun is bright? I experience it. How do you know that the fire is hot? I experience it. Experience is the prover of everything, is the disprover of everything. And that experience has no negation. And experience is another word for a conscious identity, your conscious nature. And therefore, the unnegatability of your conscious identity is something, it is very evident, is absolutely evident, self-evident. Truth is self-evident. It is not made evident by another thing. If it is made evident by something, then that something would be a greater truth than the truth. Truth is never made evident. Truth is taught. Even though it is evident, it is not looked at. Man, even though he himself is the truth, he doesn't look at himself. And therefore, he is taught. Therefore, avinashitu tad vidhi. Yena sarvam idam tatam. It is not only unlike the universe. The consciousness is not only unlike the thoughts, unlike the thinking. Consciousness is something that pervades the universe, please. Why? Because everything happens, everything appears within the consciousness. Can you place the objects outside your attention, please? You cannot. And therefore, everything is within your attention. Your attention means you, within you. Within attention means consciousness. There, within your conscious attention, everything is. Within your conscious identity, everything is. It is known. I experience it. Every object is experienced. And even when you think of a distant object, I experience, it is all darkness. I don't see anything. I see something is my experience. That I don't see something, that is also experience. And that experience has no negation. That experience is consciousness. Therefore, everything falls within consciousness. And when you fall everything within the consciousness, it is called consciousness pervades everything. Just as the water pervades the wave. That means all over the wave, the water is present. That is called pervasion. Pervasion is not a spread in the space, please. Space falls within the conscious, it is experienced. Air is experienced, fire is experienced, water is experienced, earth is experienced, time is experienced, thought is experienced, perception is experienced, the body is experienced. Everything that is experienced falls within the realm of experience. Experience is another term for consciousness, please. It is Anubhava Swarupa. Truth is Anubhava Swarupa. If everything falls within the experience, then everything falls within consciousness. And that consciousness is what one is. I told you in the last class, you don't have consciousness, you are consciousness. You don't have experience, you are experience. In the deep sleep state, you don't, even though you say that I have experience of this, I have experience of the waking, I have experience of the dream, you think experience is something you have and you don't have. Whenever you use the word have, it means it can go also. Like money you have now and you don't have now. Similarly, experience now you have, experience now you don't have. It's not that you have experience. You are experiencing the world. You are the experiencer of the world. That experiencer has no negation. I call it experiencer in relation to what you experience. But otherwise, unrelated to the object of experience, you are of the nature of experience. And therefore, because everything falls within the realm of experience, experience pervades all that is experienced. In that sense, and therefore even its all pervasiveness is also evident, please. Because consciousness is something that is there, that pervades the entire Anubhava Vishayam. Anubhava Atma, Anubhava Swarupa Atma pervades all the Anubhava Vishayam. Can you understand these Sanskrit terms? The object of experience is pervaded by the experience. The object of consciousness is pervaded by consciousness. The object of perception is experience, is pervaded by consciousness. I call it perception. But actually it is a perceiver who is of the nature of consciousness. Now, therefore, just as its eternity is self-evident, and its all-pervasiveness also is self-evident. If it is self-evident, why are you teaching? I say, even though it is self-evident, it's never understood. It is, teaching is there not to create evidence of the truth, but to point out what is evident, please. The teaching is there to point out what is evident. Even though it is evident, like the 10th man, he is the 10th man, it is evident. It's not far away from him. It is evident, but yet he doesn't look at himself. He doesn't understand himself. And therefore he has to be taught, sir, the 10th man that you are looking for is not other than yourself. Thus the evident is pointed out by the teaching. In that sense, Vedanta is a pramanam. Vedanta is a pramanam in the matter, in the sense that it only points out what is self-evident. Vedanta doesn't create evidence. No teacher can create evidence. It is already evident. And therefore, just as its eternity is self-evident, and its all-pervasiveness also is self-evident. To be conscious means to be all-pervasive, nothing else, please. Because everything falls within the realm of consciousness. Unless it is an object of consciousness, it cannot be proved to be present. It cannot be proved. What is present cannot be proved to be present unless it falls within the consciousness. And therefore, that you are conscious is self-evident, and that you are unnegatable is self-evident. And that what is self-evident is pointed out by the Shruti. Vinasham avyayasya nakaschit kartum arhati. The destruction of the Sat cannot be brought about by anybody. Nobody can bring about the destruction of this Sat. Then what do you do through Vedanta? You correct your distorted perception. Not that you destroy the Asat, please. There is no creation of anything. Vedanta doesn't help you to create something. The Vedanta doesn't help you to destroy anything. Vedanta helps you to correct your view about the truth. It works on your thinking. It works on you. It helps you to correct your view. Like when the 10th man says that where is that, he is searching for the 10th man. And some traveler comes and says, he understands that the very seeker is the 10th man. He tells him Sir, when you all started, there were 10 people, you say. Count the others. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that 10th man is yourself. You did not, it's not that you forgot yourself. You did not count yourself. Similarly, here man does not count himself, his existence. He may count his form, he may count his emotions, he may count his feelings, he may count his thinking, but he doesn't count his existence. And existence is consciousness. And consciousness being a form is illogical. And therefore the entire embodiment is illogical. Life itself is illogicality, because it is a view about it's a wrong view about the truth. Life itself is a wrong view about the truth. Death itself, to fear death, to fear negation, is an illogical view about oneself. And to feel, and the view that I am a form is also an illogical view. Life is an illogical view. Death is an illogical view about one's existence. And this illogical view is corrected by Vedanta. The universe is not destroyed, only the view is corrected. Therefore, Vedanta does not help you to create something. You can't create anything. You can't create even an ounce of matter, G. You can't create anything. You can't create the sixth element, G. You can't create anything. You can't destroy also anything. It maintains its existence in some form or the other. You can't totally destroy anything. You can't create anything. You can only correct your view. You can't destroy the earth, flat earth, nor can you create the round earth. You only correct your perception. The earth is not flat. The earth is round. This is what is called Vedanta. It only corrects your view. It corrects your view about yourself. And life is a view, G. That I am born is a view. That I am a form is a view, a correctable view. And a correctable view is what is called adhyasa. That it is snake is a correctable view. That it is a correctable view. That it is water is a correctable view. When you wake up from the dream, you don't destroy the dream. You correct the view that it is real. It is an object. It is only a perception. You correct your view. Dream is not destroyed. Dream is not created also. There is a perception, there is a view that it is all a thing, a tangible thing. And therefore, on the basis of your sense that it is a tangible thing, you have attractions and repulsions, etc. You have desires, this and that. The entire life is centered on the sense of reality about things. That sense of reality is a view. The view that I am the form gives you the view that everything is real. And on the basis of the sense of reality, you have desires. On the basis of the sense of reality, you have emotions, you have thoughts, you have desires, you have attachments, you have detachments, etc. You have likes and dislikes. Even world wars begin. World wars take place. All wars take place. All affections take place on the basis of the sense of reality. And that sense of reality about the objects comes from the sense of equation with the form. An illogical equation with the form, please. An illogical equation with the form. A very illogical. That I am the form. It is a conscious being which says, when the water says, I am a wave, I am a diable, I am subject to death form, is wrong. It is an illogical view of the water, that I am a wave. If the rope thinks that I am a snake, it is illogical view. Similarly, if the unlimited thinks that I am limited, it is an illogical view. You may say, who thinks? How can the unlimited think? Say, thinking there is no second person. All that has to be thought. A wrong knowledge also is for the truth only. But what you think doesn't qualify you. The thinking that takes place in consciousness doesn't qualify consciousness. The wave doesn't qualify water. The snake nest doesn't qualify rope. Even though it is a distorted perception, no erroneous perception, no distorted perception can qualify the fact. ये बार बार को आपको सोचना चाहिए. जितना आप सोचेंगे इसके बारे में, जितना जरूर अच्छी तरह से सोचेंगे, उतना अच्छा है. Yes, you have to think correctly, because who thinks that I am the jiva? People wonder, who thinks that I am the jiva? It's the Paramatma only who thinks that I am jiva. But his thinking that I am the form doesn't qualify the Paramatma. Therefore, the Paramatma's nature is intact. The water is intact. The ropeness is intact, despite my perception that it is snake. The round earth is roundness of the earth is intact, despite my perception that it is flat. My sense that it is flat doesn't qualify the roundness of the earth. My God, this is something. That is what Bhashyakara says. Yatra yatadhyasaha tat kritena gunena doshena va anumatrenapi sana sambhajyate. It is not affected. The nature is not at all affected by thinking. Whether it is my thinking, or whether it is individuals thinking, or it is Paramatma's thinking, what does it matter? Thinking doesn't qualify consciousness. This is what is to be understood. Rather than involve in hair splitting arguments as to who thinks that I am limited. I say nobody thinks. The thinking doesn't, there is no thinking, because the thinking is it doesn't qualify the truth. The water that you see in the desert doesn't qualify the sand. That is what is important. What is to be understood is not who thinks, but what is the relationship between the thinking and where it takes place. Where it takes place is not qualified by thinking. And therefore, just as snake doesn't qualify the rope, the wave doesn't qualify the water, and the mirage water doesn't qualify the sand, the dream doesn't qualify the dreamer. In the same manner, the adhyastha, the individuality, doesn't qualify the consciousness. The entire life is individuality, that I am the form. The entire individuality centers on the thought that I am the form. This is a thinking. This is not a fact place. Like the earth is flat is a thought. It's not a fact. A fact should be independent of thought. But what you can transcend is a thought. In the deep sleep state, this thought that I am the form is not there. That means it is a transcendable. If it is transcendable, then it is thinking. Whereas freedom from the form is not transcendable. You can transcend the form, but you can't transcend the freedom from the form. Are you able to hear, please? Please hear this matter. You can transcend the form, but you can't transcend the freedom from the form. Just as you can transcend the sound, you can't transcend silence. The more you transcend the sound, the more you stand as silence. Therefore, silence cannot be transcended, because silence is a synonym of the truth. It is a conscious silence. It is a conscious being. Silence is not inert place. Silence is conscious. The silentness of your conscious being, the silentness of your existence is called silence. Silence is not a part of creation. Silence is a synonymous word with consciousness. It is synonymous with consciousness. And therefore, just you can transcend the sound, you can't transcend silence. In the same manner, you can transcend the thought that I am the form, but you can't transcend freedom from the thought. Thought can be transcended, But the transcendence of the thought cannot be transcended. Freedom from the form cannot be transcended because that is a fact. You can transcend that is the fundamental fact, please. That is the factuality about your being. That is what Bhagavan is saying. The destruction of this self, the destruction of the Sat, nobody can bring about. Vinasham avyayasya. Vinasham means destruction. Avyayasya means the destruction of this indestructible. Nakaschit kartum arhati. Nobody can bring about. Nobody can accomplish the destruction of the indestructible. Just as you can't accomplish the eternity of the form, you can't make your body eternal, please. It is a perception. How can perception be eternal? It has a beginning and end. No perception. Anything that begins has an end. It is an object of perception. It is an object of thought. It's an object of your experience. An object of experience is always non-eternal, please. It can be transcended. Experience cannot be transcended, but an object of experience can be transcended. The waking world is an object of experience. It can be transcended. The dream is an object of experience. It can be transcended. But freedom from both cannot be transcended. Freedom from both is something that is the fact about our being. And therefore, seeing the waking world, seeing the dream world, don't think that is our actuality. That is an erroneous perception about the silent being that we are. Yes, you may say that seeing may entertain you, enjoying may entertain you, but all entertainments man looks for only for silentness of one's being, the peacefulness of one's being. You enjoy every object for the peace, please. You may say, I want excitement. Even the excitements you go for the peacefulness, for the fullness of your being. Fullness means peacefulness of your being. Peacefulness of your being is the one that you intend to gain through all the pleasures, through all the entertainments, through all the comforts, through all the pleasures, yes, through all the success, through all the achievements, through all the place. What you want to achieve is the silentness, the comfort, the fullness of your being, the peacefulness of your being. And that peacefulness of your being cannot be transcended because that is your nature. And what is your nature cannot be transcended. And what can be transcended is asat. What cannot be transcended is sat. And nobody can bring about any destruction of sat. And therefore, vinasham avyayasya nakaschit kartumarhati. One more verse we can see. Antavantaha ime deha. These bodies, in contrast to the sat, these bodies are antavantaha. They come to an end. Therefore, don't try to be physically eternal, please. That is not possible. Non-eternity is its nature. I have told you all the objects of experience, they change, they have laya, means they can be transcended, and they can be disproved. These three words you have to remember. All the objects of experience, not experience. All because you are the experiencer. Even though I call you experiencer, but then you are experience. In relation to an object of experience, you are called experiencer. But otherwise, you are experience. You are absolute. And therefore, all the objects of experience change, and they can have laya and they can have badha. Meaning, they change, they resolve, and they can be disproved. Whereas experience cannot be, it doesn't change, it cannot be transcended, and it cannot be disproved. And therefore, the sat cannot be disproved. Antavanta ime dehaha. All these bodies come to an end one day. And that is However entertaining life you may build on this form, but one day the form comes to an end. Your entire entertaining life comes to an end also. And therefore, seeing the non-eternity of the form is important. That gives you vairagyam. Seeing the non-eternity of the non-eternal and the eternity of the eternal is what is called viveka. That is what is called viveka. That is called viveka shakti. The discerning capacity is what is called thinking capacity. The choosing capacity, the discerning capacity. Discerning means this is the form and this is consciousness. They call it as spirit, the consciousness. And therefore, we are not a form by nature. We are conscious identity. We are consciousness by nature. The unnegatable consciousness we are. The unnegatable awareness we are. The unnegatable knowledge we are. The unnegatable experience we are. The objects of experience. And therefore, all the bodies are non-eternal. And therefore, however much you may feed the body, however much you may make it comfortable, ultimately, one day it has to disappear. It has to be burnt. It has to be buried. Or it has to be burnt. Or it has to be immersed in water. Or something, it's gone. It fizzles out. That is why it is called shariram. What is subject to fizzle out is called shariram. Shiryamana svabhavatva. What can fizzle out one day? What is subject to fizzling out one day is what is called shariram. It is also called deha because dakyamanatvat deha. What is subject to be burnt as a, if your tradition, if you are a Hindu, it's burnt. And if it is somebody else, then it is buried. It is fizzles out anyway. As burnt, it is fizzles out. As buried also, it fizzles out. It is burnt shariram. And everything that can fizzle out is asatji. That is why antavanta ime deha nitya sokta sharirinaha. It's very important. All the bodies belong to the eternal. The embodied being is eternal. The body is non-eternal. The embodied being, the one who occupies the deha, is eternal. The conscious being who occupies the form, who thinks that I am the form, is none other than eternal, please. But thinking that I am the form doesn't qualify him. That's all important. It is the eternal. Every form is owned by, every form is identified with by the eternal. It is the eternal. The embodied being of even an amoeba is eternal. The amoeba may not think, a mosquito may not think, a tiger may not think, a lion may not think, a wolf may not think, but man thinks, and therefore the Vedanta teaches man, sir, think, understand, discern between the sharira, the body, and the embodied being, the eternal and the non-eternal. Discerning between the two makes you really great, makes you wise. In fact, live your entire life in order to discern between your actuality and your form. Therefore, use the creation just to survive, not to indulge in it. That is why we say it's right, Ji. Discipline is important for Vedanta. Even non-indulgence is a kind of a penance. Non-indulgence is a penance. Non-indulgence one can understand. Discipline is non-indulgence, yes. That's why the Veda says, Sarve Vedaha yat padamamananti, tapagam siche sarvani yad vadanti, yadichanto brahmacharyam charanti, tatte padagam sangrahena bravimi, omityetati says. All disciplines are meant to facilitate this knowledge. All penances are meant to facilitate this knowledge. All vairagyam is, all self-controls are meant to facilitate this knowledge, facilitate your reflection. All prayers are meant to facilitate the reflection. And therefore, live your life with all these things, with the knowledge that they are meant to facilitate my discerning between Sat and Asat, so that I can understand my actuality. That is called Vedic life. That is what is called Sanatana Dharma. Doing every good deed for the sake of ultimate knowledge is called Sanatana Dharma. Do a good deed. Do a good deed. Offer a prayer. Offer a worship. Do a good deed. Serve others and offer a prayer. Serve others. Karma yoga, all the and self-control and follow values. And all these things are what? Brahmacharya, etc. They're all meant to facilitate your discerning between the Sat and Asat. And there is nothing more to discern. Fundamentally, you have to discern between what is and what appears to be. The universe only appears to be. It is a perception about the Sat, please. It's not parallel to Bhagwan. God's creation is not parallel to God. Like wave is not parallel to water. There is no gap between wave and water. Similarly, there is no gap between the universe and the truth and the Sat. I've told you, God is a word which is a theological term, but otherwise it is Satyam, the unnegatable, the complete, the full, the eternal, the unlimited. This is all really, these are the Swarupa of the Sat, and that is one's nature. And therefore, Antavantaha ime dehaha nitya sokta sharirana. The one who is occupying this form is none other than the eternal. Don't look upon the embodied being as non-eternal, please. Recognize him. And the more of it we will see later. Purnamadaha purnamidam purnat purnamudachyate purnasya purnamadaya purnameva vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you very much. And keep listening. All your questions will be answered. And you have to think straight, correct, Ji. Thinking correct should be your vibhuti. Right thinking. Don't use any other words like objective thinking, subjective thinking. All the fundamentally right thinking. What is fundamental? Sat is the fundamental truth. Asat is the whole creation is asat. The form that, when you transcend this form, you transcend the universe also. The universe is transcendable. The form is transcendable. Your entire thinking is transcendable. Your feelings are transcendable. Your emotions are transcendable. Your time boundness is transcendable. Anything that is transcendable is asat. Anything that is transcendable is asat. And the one that cannot be transcended is Sat, that is yourself. And therefore, try to discern between, look at your existence. That is what is important. Thank you.